Hello everyone, I'm Big B and this is Cap History. Today I'll be talking about the Automatic Kalashnikov Modernizirованный, or the AKM. The AKM is a select-fire, long-stroke piston-driven assault rifle. It is chambered in 7.62 by 39, fed from a detachable box magazine. The AKM and its derivatives are mainly in use by multiple East European, African, and Asian nations such as Afghanistan, Israel, Egypt, Iraq, Laos, China, North Korea, and of course, Russia. It also finds itself overseas in the US civilian market with semi-automatic versions. First, to begin looking into the current development of the AKM, I'll need to bring up its earlier model, the AK-47. Design for the AK-47 first began in 1945 by Mikhail Kalashnikov in the Soviet Union. The rifle's development began right after World War II and quickly replaced the Soviets' older semi-automatic firearm, the SKS. Mikhail Kalashnikov was born November 10, 1919 in Kurya, Russia. He was the 17th of 19 children in a poor farming household. In his youth, he had interest in machinery and poetry and wrote multiple books. In his teens, his family was deported to Tomsk Oblast and had to combine hunting with farming to stay sustained. He used his father's bolt action to hunt and continued hunting his entire life. At one point, he left his family to move back to Kurya and found a mechanic job for a tractor station. A party organizer at the station noticed his work there and offered him work at a nearby weapons design bureau where he tested fitted rifle stocks. In 1938, Kalashnikov was conscripted into the Red Army as a tank mechanic, and later he became a tank commander. During his training, he worked on small arms in his free time. Some of his superiors took notice, such as Georgy Zhukov, who gifted him a watch for his work. In 1941, Kalashnikov was injured during duty and hospitalized. There, he overheard some soldiers complaining about their current rifle's reliability. After he was discharged, he began work on developing a new standard infantry rifle for the Red Army. He first designed a submachine gun that was not accepted, but it did get his engineering skills recognized. 1942, he started working for the Central Scientific Development Firing Range for rifle firearms of the Red Army. 1944, he designed a gas-operated rifle carbine in 7.62 by 39, but he was beat by Sergei Semenov's SKS. 1946, this design was used for an assault rifle competition as the MiGTIM. This model was the early prototype of a family of rifles. In 1947, Kalashnikov developed this model into the AK-47 Type 1, a select-fire mag-fed assault rifle with a stamped receiver. In 1949, the AK-47 was made the standard issue assault rifle of the Soviet Army after beating the firearms made by Vasily Degtyarev and Georgy Shpegin. At this point, Kalashnikov was working in Ijevsk Udmurtia in the Ijevsk engineering plant. The Type 1 receiver was produced from 1949 to 1951 until the AK-47's receiver was updated to be milled so production could be made more consistent and was named the Type 2. Around 1953, further refinements were made to the receiver and was named the Type 3. A couple of problems for the AK-47 at the time were its weight and its cost of production. These were both solved in 1959 by replacing the milled receiver with a stamped steel receiver since stamping equipment had improved its consistency and was designated the Type 4, or the AKM. Other improvements were a compensator and a reshaped stock. The firearm was so popular that by 2009, over 100 million AKMs were produced. About half were counterfeit. This is due to Izhmash, the company Kalashnikov worked under, neglecting to patent the rifle until 1997. The AKM is seen as a very effective rifle due to its reliability and its fairly large 7.62 by 39 round. Its design stayed fairly simple so that even if debris found its way into the rifle, it was fairly easy to shake most of it out and continue operation. The 7.62 by 39 has a lower muzzle velocity out of the AKM than rounds like the 5.56 NATO out of the M16 or similar sized rifles. It makes up for this by using a more massive round. These factors mean the 7.62 by 39 will have a higher chance of dumping its energy into its intended target than just penetrating straight through. Many derivatives of the AKM were made, such as the AK-74, a version of the rifle chambered in 5.45 by 39. This cartridge was made to be more similar to the NATO 5.56 by 45 with a smaller, faster projectile. Designations for small changes in the firearm's design were made in the form of letters at the end of their main designation. N for NOK being used if a dovetail mount was present on the rifle, S for skladnoy if the rifle was made with a foldable stock, U for ukorochny if the rifle was made to carbine length. In 1994, the AK-100 series was created as a modernization of the AKM. All the rifles in the series were fitted with polymer stocks, foregrips, and pistol grips. Their barrels were also slightly changed, in the gas block being straighter and a longer muzzle brake being fitted to the rifle. This series used its number in the series to show if it was a carbine or not, as well as what ammunition it took. The AK-101 and 102 took 5.56 by 45 NATO. The 103 and 104 took 7.62 by 39. The 106 was skipped, but will most likely be similar to the AK-74, which took 5.45 by 39, as did the AK-105. The AK-101 and 103 were full-length rifles, while the 102, 104, and 105 were carbines. The AK-107, 108, and 109 are similar to the full-length rifles of the 100 series, except that they use a balanced recoil system that uses a counterweight system to help decrease recoil in the firearm. Around 2009, an improvement was made on the 100 series that was designated the 200 series. The 200 series saw new windowed polymer magazines to get an estimate on their remaining ammunition, as well as receiving a retractable and foldable stock more similar to newer AR-15 style buffer tube stocks. The pistol grip was also updated for a grooved design to better fit the operator's fingers. Rails were also built into the polymer foregrip. The AK-200 series followed a similar naming convention as the 100 series, with caliber and length designated by number. They were just in a different order. The AK-200, 201, and 203 were full-length, while the 202, 204, and 205 were carbines. The 200 and 205 were in 5.45 by 39, the 201 and 202 were 5.56 by 45 NATO, and the 203 and 204 were in 7.62 by 39. An early rifle based on the prototype of the AK-200 was the AK-12. It was fairly different from the other main AK models in its completely different dust cover, foregrip, stock, and fire control group. The AK-12 prototype had a much blockier and angled design. The dust cover was simplified with flat sides and top, as well as addition of Picatinny rails to the top. This was paired with railing that ran along the top of the foregrip as well. The stock was about as squared off as the dust cover and was built to stay in line with the barrel. The fire control group had full and semi-automatic, as well as a 3-round burst that had an increased RPM. The final production model of this firearm looked much more like the later AK-200 model, going back to the buffer tube style stock, regular burst, and rounded dust cover. The dust cover kept the top mounted railing though. This rifle variant was chambered in 5.45 by 39, while an AK-15 model was chambered in 7.62 by 39 and a 19 model in 5.56 by 45. Other firearms based on the AK platform were also made, such as the Saiga 12, a select fire 12-gauge shotgun, and the PP-19 Bison, a select fire 9x18 submachine gun. Multiple countries also have their own variations of the AKM, such as the Type 56-2 used by the Chinese military. The AKM and its derivatives, as said before, are in use in multiple militaries around the world, as well as personal use for home defense and target shooting. In the US, semi-automatic rifles built by Kalashnikov USA, another US-based manufacturer, are owned by civilians, and in Russia, smoothbore versions of the firearm are allowed to the people. The AKM is seen in almost every form of visual media, from movies such as Die Hard, Hardcore Henry, and Fast and Furious 6, to game series such as Call of Duty, Battlefield, and Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six series. The AKM, with its good reliability and slow but hefty cartridge, as well as its descendants, have seen use all around the world from the US to China, in militaries, homes, and contractors. It's also had its fair share of use in nefarious and terroristic deeds. The AKM has been integrated as a product in many companies to keep up with demand for the style of firearm, such as Kalashnikov USA, Norinco, and Kalashnikov Concern. Once again, my name is Bigby, and this has been High Cap History. See you in the next video.